let me get a poll of the room. Who's heard of Reveal.JS? Okay, a couple people. And like how many developers are in here? All right. So what I want to explain too is this is Reveal.js is what I'm using, but it's also, it can be implemented with just about anything. Like I'm using a REST export from Drupal 8 without installing any contrib modules, which is pretty cool. But refresh this page. All right, so a little about me. My name is Tommy Sliker. I work for New Valley Media. You may see them. They walk around in these really cool sweatshirts. I'm Miraculous on Drupal.org, and I created the Drupal wrap, and I should say a Drupal wrap, not the, because there are a couple of them. Yep, so I'm covering creating a JSON export of our data in views, leveraging jQuery to basically fetch and parse that JSON. You can use you can use Angular, whatever you really want to do, but I just used jQuery because it was so simple. And then I'll also kind of be explaining the Reveal.js module that I've been working on. And just some cool tidbits. So why am I even doing this? Because my last presentation was on Display Suite. I did a little while back. And yeah, there was like 4 people. And I don't know. Once I told them I made my slides in Drupal 8, they kind of wanted to see that. So I figured I'd do that in Atlanta. All right, so this is sort of a live presentation type deal, so hopefully there's no hiccups. But so the first thing I did, I started with a content type called a Reveal slideshow, added a text field with unlimited values. All right, so let me go to structured content types. If this is just with a plain install, I've already added the content type, but here's Reveal slideshow. And if you manage your fields, I've got 1 field. That's pretty cool. If you're used to Drupal 7, you'd probably see a lot of stuff there, but like meta tags and all kinds of stuff. But it's pretty cool upgrading Drupal 8. Unlimited. So yeah, so you can add as many as you want. The widget I'm using is DCATL, which comes by default. All right. That's a cool thing that I found in Drupal 8. I'm used to using Drupal 7 DCATL, which I haven't seen this before. It might actually be there, and I just haven't searched hard enough. But it's I doubt you can even see that. Anyways, I'll just go to it. Under your configuration, so I'm just going to go to full HTML, but all right. So if you add the styles thing to your CK editor, then it'll add this drop down where you can kind of define some of your classes and stuff. So you can like a fragment in Reveal.JS is something that will be loaded on the slide load, but you won't see it until you kind of arrow over. So so like right there, that's a fragment. And if I go to my content, I'll go to my first slide. Yeah, I gotta edit. So I could take this and add a style of fragment here now, and whenever I go there, it would not show up right away. All right, so we can create a view. We actually, I think I put this here, but yeah, you have to enable the RESTful Web Services module, which I believe it will then enable serialization module for you. So it's actually 2 modules, but yeah, we'll create a view of all these slides now, and then export it as JSON. So I've already created my view, but I'll go ahead and add a new one so you can see what that looks like. So we would call this something like Reveal Slides or something. Content of Reveal Slideshow. And then instead of creating a page or a block, they now have this option, provide a REST export. And then you can put your path there. For mine, I did slides.json as my path. So here's that actual view. All right, so all I'm really showing is published content that with the type Reveal Slideshow. This is all pretty much default from those from the selections I put in, and it exports this. If I go to slides.json, that should show up, right? So that's all my slides right there. It doesn't look very good, obviously, but I'm pulling that in from this right here. This is basically just this is an index.html site that I cloned from the GitHub repo for Reveal.js, and then I added some jQuery to it. All right, so okay, so let me go open up that file. Wow. So that cloned repo is here in the DS slides site. So I can access that by going to my IP address and then typing in ds-slides, and that's what we saw a minute ago. Right there. So yes, DS slides, and then it adds these other parameters as you move on, so you can go back and forth. But yeah, so most of this already comes by default, but all I had to add, I basically took the markup that it was generating and then you created sections with the jQuery. So to do that, I had to add jQuery library, followed by a custom JavaScript file that I would put my personal JavaScript in. And then there's also this initialize where you can put in settings and stuff. So there's more than this. Like you can turn off your numbers. You can change how the slides transitions. There's probably like 15 different things you can really do there. So, and then there's these dependencies here too. If you just make sure they're in whatever folder you're referencing, they should work by adding this line of code here. So I've got Zoom.js. If you go back to my actual slideshow, by like alt-click, and alt-click will zoom in on this stuff. There's a lot of different stuff like syntax highlighting for code, things like that. So my custom JavaScript I created is called slides.js. And I didn't have to do much here. So I just used a jQuery function to get the JSON from my Drupal 8 site, from that view we created. And then I did some for eaches type functions and basically spit out different sections, which is basically a different slide, and used parameters from that JSON file. So right here, so I'm kind of narrowing it down to each value of that array, that JSON array, and then grabbing the reveal slide and that value, which is just a body field. So, is there any questions from that? No? Okay. All right, so I've been working on a Reveal.JS module so that you don't have to use REST if you don't want to. So that actual clone there, I was logged in when I put that clone URL in there, so it actually probably won't work. For 7x. Yes, no, okay. It's actually for 8. I just named it 7x. I used to. It's haven't, yeah. So, yeah, sorry for making this more confusing than it had to be. It's eternal. Does the module work? That's very important, right? So yes, it works. And no, it doesn't, right? So there's certainly some weird issues with it so far, such as you have to clear cache, like every page load. Yeah. All right, so so I kind of want to walk through like some of the cool things I found while developing it so far. So to create, has anybody used configuration management in here yet on Drupal 8? It's really cool. So basically what I was able to do is my Drupal site, I would create my content type. And then my fields and stuff, whatever I wanted, and then I could export that with configuration management. And in my custom module, I could then put those YAML files into my config install folder, and it automatically finds that when you enable, and will install that. So that's configuration synchronization. And if you go to export, you can export all of your settings. Or you can, what I did was a single, so I could grab, if you want to grab a content type, reveal slideshow, and it gives you your code, And it tells you what to call it as well. So in my file structure, inside the Reveal.JS module, I have a config folder with an install folder, and I was able to put whatever I wanted here, like form display, my field storage settings and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's way better than Drupal 7, which basically I'd be lazy and create a feature for that and then add module code to the feature. So I also have this, let me go back. So I have a configuration page as well for your slides. What this module is doing is it's installing a content type called Reveal.JS, and then basically each node that you create is a slideshow in itself of those fields. So for settings, you can checkbox, do whatever you want, and save your configuration. And inside my module, the way that worked is it uses Drupal settings. Whereas in Drupal 7, you do have Drupal settings. It's a thing. But you can also do a Drupal add JavaScript or CSS and just kind of add whatever you want with mixing your variables in there. And usually that's what I would end up doing. But they kind of force standards on you in Drupal 8, it looks like. So that's actually a good thing. So what I did here in my library, you can create a dependency for this JavaScript file, which I called init.js. It's basically that initialization, like 20 lines of code that we saw earlier. So I would add that into my library and then add a dependency on Drupal settings. And once you do that, you can then take the library and add to that array, which is all the stuff we just saw. So the base URL, controls, progress, I added with PHP, and then that stuff just showed up when I then went to my JavaScript file. So this variable right here would be set right here. So that's pretty cool. It's actually a lot easier that way. You get used to it. Currently, I have not seen a very good way of defining libraries in Drupal 8. So once this eventually, they kind of frown upon putting other people's repos in your modules, obviously. So this is that Reveal.js repo right here, but that's going to have to move to libraries, which then, I don't know, unless somebody else has a better way, I would then just straight up link to it using your base URL of your site. I don't know a better way right now. Anybody messed around with Drupal 8 libraries? No? All right. Let me get back to my presentation. Yeah, so just working with Twig. Has anybody messed with Twig yet? Well, basically, they removed PHP template, which I was actually kind of a fan of because I could do whatever I wanted. But anyways, so now you basically just have to execute all your PHP in the template preprocess or some kind of preprocess, and then all your you're just going to use variables. So, for example, this could probably still change. I know I had this whole thing working about a month ago, and then I upgraded to the next Drupal, and it all quit working. So who knows? Who knows if they're going to change some more stuff with Twig? But
did you lose all your JavaScript and CSS when you upgraded to 16?
No, I have a little repo set up, but yeah. Did you actually just upgraded your actual site?
After that update, there was a change in core. The way you the core HTML.twig, HTML.twig, that in the way you include JavaScript and CSS on your pages.
Yes, yeah, right. I have that right here. That's exactly what I was talking about, messed everything up.
Exactly. The syntax totally changed, and so you have to look at the core theme, see how they did it, and then put that in your HTML.twig.
Right, so they added these placeholders right here.
All for BitPipe.
Oh, okay. That's good then. Yeah, but see, it lists out your variables. I just copied this over and made my tweaks from the core HTML.twig file, but it's got some functions and stuff you can run, like debugging. If you install the Vel module, you can run Kent, which would then show it in almost like a Devel DPM. Otherwise, if you try using dump, you might just get a blank screen a lot, because it kicks out a lot of information. But so right here, anyways, what I did was so this is basically a for each as. So for each node.field reveal slide as slide, I was then able to then drill down to some values. There's actually some good documentation about the differences between PHP template and Twig if you just kind of Google it. Yeah, so that's about it. Anybody have any cool stories to tell or questions? Anything? All right, you guys are dismissed.
Very cool, thank you.